This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Welcome to the Financial Beat with the one and only Logan Sadler. And Logan, of course, is the Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial, serving you in Southern California. 2 convenient offices, Hemet and Redlands. And, of course, Logan does this radio show, every single week and meets new folks because of that. I'm going to give you a very important phone number in just a second here. But, Logan, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Ron. Getting going here this morning and looking forward to a great show.
Hey, listen, if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan Sadler, here's a very important number. Why not go ahead and write this down right away? Don't delay. 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN. Why is it PLAN? Well, first of all, that means 7526, but we use the word plan because it's so important for you to have a financial plan, getting to and through retirement. 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler is the name. Hey, you know, some people have mental blocks when it comes to money, and particularly when they're trying to plan for retirement later on. How do these different mental blocks affect people in their financial planning? I don't know if you have ever been to IKEA.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. It's a mega warehouse. It's huge.
Yeah, really. And the IKEA effect is something that comes from that. It causes us to place higher value on things we partially created ourselves. Furniture from IKEA is cheaper, but you might think that it's worth more because you struggled for several hours to put it together. And for me, I mean, I'm not good at putting things together like that. And so if they say it's going to take 45 minutes to assemble something, you can count on taking me 3 or 4 hours. You know, I mean,
I fall in that same category.
I'm just not good at that kind of thing. Have you seen people be reluctant to abandon a clearly failed financial strategy or approach simply because they had come up with it all by themselves?
Yeah, I have. You know, it's one of those things I feel where, especially like you were saying, if you build something yourself, sometimes you have a little bit more, whether you want to say it or not, but you have a little more emotional tie to it, right?
Yeah.
You might put a little bit more value on it than other people might. And yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of our prospects that we meet with that are on the radio show or come to our events or the webinars or wherever they're coming in from, a lot of the times they have, some of them have created this themselves, right? So I think that's something I always put a lot of, sensitivity on when we're reviewing things. Yeah. But it's something where I've seen it time and time again where, don't get me wrong, there are some people out there that are very, equipped to do this and can do it themselves and do a lot of it themselves. And it might be a pretty decent plan. But more often than not, a lot of the times, you just can't do everything yourself in the financial world. There's so much stuff. Yes, you could buy stocks, you could buy bonds. Those are great. They're a great asset class to have in your portfolio. But there's just so much stuff that you don't have access to if you're doing it all yourself, like fixed index annuities, which we've talked about how important the safety of an income of those can be, structured notes. You look at IULs, the index universal life insurance policies, long-term care, and then a lot of the advanced tax planning strategies. You typically need somebody else to help kind of orchestrate all of these different tools and services into a financial plan. So, I've seen it time and time again where, yes, they have a decent plan maybe from the start of things, but when you really kind of bear down to it, there's probably a lot of different avenues that we could explore that would definitely make this a more successful plan in the long run.
Well, getting back to the IKEA thing, I mean, the couple of times that I've actually managed to put things together, I had a lot of pride in them when I finally finished because...
Well, you do, right? I mean, it's like, hey, you feel like you carved the wood out yourself and built it from scratch, right? That's what it feels like, but we know we just put a few bolts together, but it still feels like we did a lot of different heavy lifting items on those.
According to them, you can put anything together with an Allen wrench,
Yeah, exactly.
They always have one of those.
Build a house with an Allen wrench.
I don't think so, man. I wouldn't want to live in a house that I built. I can tell you that much. There are some people out there who, always see the glass half full to an extreme measure. The extremely optimistic person always believes, often to their own detriment, that things are going to turn out great. How have you seen someone get hurt financially because of their extreme optimism?
Yeah, I had this prospect that came in. It was a client or a person we were meeting with who was trying to become a client. We were interviewing them. They were interviewing us. And really great guy, super nice. And he really was kind of coming in for what he called the check-in, just to see how he was doing, and wondering if we could be of any better service or shed some light on his situation. And you want to talk about being extremely, thinking green, I guess is what I would say, is very optimistic. He had done actually very well putting money away and put himself in a really great spot. He had actually had around $1 million that he had saved up and put away, which was obviously for lots of people is a great start to a retirement plan. And it was very interesting. I remember asking him, okay, so what type of income are you looking for? What are your long-term goals? And to add in there, Ron, he was being very, very aggressive. He had basically all of it in a lot of these large cap stocks. He had very little in bonds or cash or annuities or in no other asset classes like that. Yeah. Basically 100% in the market. And again, for some people that might be fine. And so I'm talking with him and going through all this. And he had said, finally, my whole goal is over the next year and a half, I need this to get to 1.2 million, right? So he wants to make $200,000 on the portfolio. And so that means that he wants to draw out when he gets to that age, he wanted to draw out 9 to 9.5% to draw a little over $100,000 a year of income. And I remember, just talking with him, and I was like, listen, that's obviously would be a great goal, but here's the idea. What happens if the market performs negatively over these next few years or doesn't have a really great run over the next few years? Well, he said, well, it's done good the last 3 or 4, so I'm thinking it's going to do good the next 2 or 3, right? So he was just very optimistic, and I kind of was, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I was kind of like, hey, let's look at the market, and I just want to tell you, and I'm not even saying if you moved the money to us or went to someone else, just look at the market in general. If we're talking about just apples to apples, you got to know that a lot of the times that the bull runs that we've had the last 10 years don't always happen, right? Yeah. There is those years where we have bigger drops than others, and I, again, told him about taking out 9% of the portfolio, even if it did get to 1.2 million, over 20% growth over the next few years, that still is a lot of money to take out of a portfolio. And being that aggressive, you could definitely run a very, very high risk of running out of money. And so he was just thinking very, very optimistic, and it was actually a great conversation that ended up turning out well. The guy actually became a client and came on board, and we were able to kind of bring back reality, I guess, a little bit to investing. And of course, with volatility going on lately, I don't hear it very often from clients, but he was very honest and said, well, it looks like you were right. Market does go down sometimes, right? So it was a great story to the ending there.
I'm glad he got to you in time, seriously.
Yeah, definitely. And there's some that haven't, right? There's some that maybe went their own way and kept doing things themselves. And I always wish people the best, but you got to think very logically and think about best and worst case scenario, not just always thinking best case.
Exactly. Hope for the best, but plan for the worst. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Good job, Evan.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. Again, the number to call to get in touch with Logan is 888-823-PLAN. That is Regary Financial's number, 888-823-PLAN. And we're talking about mental blocks. You ever heard a term called bike shedding?
No, I haven't.
I have not heard of it at all until last week. I was reading something, and it's also known as the law of triviality. The name bike shedding comes from the concept of a city government spending a lot of time and money discussing putting in a bike path and bike sheds instead of focusing on really big things like dealing with the city's homeless population. One of the trivial, it's kind of a funny term, one of the, the trivial financial matters that you see people get distracted over.
And like you said, that is a good term. I'm going to start using that one now. I would say that's actually pretty easy when I could relate it to where I see most people get off track or distracted over. And I'd say it comes down to two things. One of them is growth, and the other one is risk. Those are where I see most people lose emotion or lose focus, I would say, on their retirement plan or their goals or any of that stuff over those two things. And I'll kind of break that down a little bit. What I mean by growth is we've seen it time and time again where we get a really, really hot market, right? You could look back a few years. We've had some really good ones. You have 2021 was a great market year for almost all the major markets. And, you see people time and time again, maybe they're moderately aggressive and all of a sudden they get a little more aggressive. Maybe I'll put some more money here. Maybe I'll do some there. And what happens is a lot of the times they're getting kind of, happy with those returns, right? They're getting very off track with trying to be maybe a little bit more aggressive than they were. And they're getting distracted over what the main goal of their financial plan was, right? And so growth, I would say, kind of gets a lot of people off track. The next one is risk. And what I mean by that is I've seen it where, a second the market drops, clients say, hey, this has never happened before. We need to get all out and go to cash or do this or do the other thing. And that could, severely impact the financial plan, especially when a lot of the times if the market goes down, a lot of the times it has a fast rebound, right? And it might be next week. It might be in a year. We don't know that answer, but we do know that typically it has a pretty big rebound. And so a lot of the times getting off track with moving not knowing your risk tolerance ahead of time and moving assets as soon as things get volatile, those two things with growth and risk can be a very, very inefficient way to really kind of get off track and get distracted with what the overall goal is with the financial plan.
Yeah. Bike shedding. Just sounds funny just
Bike
to
shedding.
say that.
I'm writing that down. That's my new word. Next week you'll hear me talk about that.
Really. There's one more mental block I wanted to mention here. That is the status quo bias. This is the preference for things to stay the same, and any changes from the norm, in other words, any changes at all from what you've been doing, is considered to be a loss. Have you seen people hurt themselves financially by being hesitant to make any kind of change from the status quo?
Yeah, I've seen clients time to time when they're coming on board or when they're about to come on board or deciding to come on board, where they've, hey, I've been doing this myself for a long time, or maybe I have an advisor that I like, but maybe there's something better out there. They're kind of not wishy-washy, but they're kind of on the fence about what they should do. They don't really like making change. I'll be honest with you, I can lump myself right there in the middle of that. Probably with most of us, whether we admit it or not, we're not huge fans of change. I don't know where you land on that, Ron, but
Yeah.
I just, I like to know what I'm doing tomorrow. I like to know what people I'm seeing. I like to keep things as in routine as possible.
Yeah, just about everybody's resistant to change, to tell you
exactly.
the truth.
And some people argue that, oh no, I embrace change, but a lot of the times we don't, right? There may be, we may embrace different pizza or different foods or different things, but a lot of the times, most of the stuff we like to have some sort of similarities and some consistency. Mm-hmm. And so I totally understand that. And I tell a lot of people, when I'm looking at your financial plan, what I always talk about is our process is very thorough. When we look through, we ask after our discovery meeting, you come in, we go over all the good stuff about, what you're trying to accomplish, what your family's goals are, what you envision retirement like, all of that stuff. And then what we do is we actually look at, for our next appointment, we ask for your full statements, not just what do you have, but full statements of each account, tax returns, insurance policies. We go over everything as far as combing through each and every holding you have to come up with a risk report, a tax report. We kind of go over everything very thoroughly. And it's funny because once we've identified your risk tolerance and your goals, like we do at the first meeting, and then putting all of those different analysis together, a lot of the times what we're able to show people is actually show them in writing and statistically about how these decisions, by making the change over to our firm or by making the changes, would positively affect their retirement, and maybe in a lot of cases make a huge impact on tax savings or on leaving a legacy or on a lot of these big financial decision matters. And I think a lot of the time that helps alleviate that fear of change, right? I think a lot of us are okay with change if we know it's going to be a value or an impact to us positively. And by not just talking about it, but we're able to actually show people, hey, by making these decisions or making this different of these different choices on this investment or this tax planning strategy, this is how it can positively affect your retirement or your family's future. And that typically is a pretty powerful way to lead. Like we always talk about, I'm not here to try to sell you anything. I'm just here to try to show you what I think can be a better value to you and your family to accomplish what goals you have laid out. So, a lot of you out there that have been listening to the show, I know a lot of you have been calling in lately, and we appreciate it. And it's always a great opportunity to sit down and meet with some listeners. So if you're out there and maybe getting close to retirement or maybe just started retirement, it'd be a good time to give us a call and see if we can't show you how change might be a good thing.
888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. That's the number you need to call to get a discovery meeting. There's no cost and no obligation attached to this at all. Call that number, leave your name and phone number. You'll get a call back from McGarry Financial. And again, you can have a conversation with Logan Sadler, be it via Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the offices in Redlands or Hemet. Up to you. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. This show is all about getting you to and through retirement. We're getting to and through this show here today, The Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler, and we'll be right back.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of a plan that has some serious issues. Much better. That's the sound of a plan that was created by someone listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. So which sound is your financial plan making?
We're back now with more of the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, VP, Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial. At Regari Financial, they have terrific partnerships with local CPAs, attorneys, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, and Medicare specialists. It's kind of a one-stop shop to help offer well-rounded guidance in all things financial for clients. You can become one by calling this number, 888-823-PLAN. Now, that's good for a conversation that's not going to cost you a penny and not going to obligate you to do anything at all down the road, so you may not become a client, and that's cool. 888-823-PLAN. You will learn a lot. You will discover a lot about yourself and about Logan Sadler. That's why we call it a discovery meeting. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make all that happen. Got an interesting, well, we normally say fun fact of the week. I'm not really sure how much fun this is, Logan, but the oldest person in history is, I'm not sure how to pronounce this name, Jean Calment of France. Okay. I'm not good on French. This person, she smoked cigarettes from the age of 21 until she was 117 years old.
Wow.
She quit 5 years before she died at the age of 122.
Wow.
Why at that point did she decide to quit? Well, smoking is bad for me, and it will cut down on my lifespan, so
yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That is amazing. As 122 after smoking that long, I'm kind of in the camp, and this probably isn't right, but at 117, why quit anything? Obviously, whatever got you there is somewhat working. Of course, not condoning cigarettes, but it's funny. I had an aunt that falls into that. She was a great aunt, and she smoked up into her mid-80s, and one of the doctors was talking about having her maybe, potentially cut down or quit. And I remember she went to another doctor, and the guy was like, well, at this point, she was almost 90 years old, so it's like, at this point, if it's not broke, I don't think I'd fix it type thing. So it was kind of funny. But, again, not condoning cigarettes. But, yeah, it is amazing the longevity that's out there, especially nowadays.
Yeah, I've never really smoked cigarettes myself, but I know a lot of people who have.
Yeah, me neither, and a lot of people love it.
A really hard time giving them up, It's a terrible addiction. So, at any rate, let's talk about media bias. I think, people talk about that all the time, and there is some media bias out there. And it's always good to keep yourself up to date with what's happening in the financial world, but it's also important to understand that the information you get from the media, and that includes radio, TV, the internet, whatever the case may be, is not completely unbiased. Just about anything you read, for example, has some kind of agenda. And let's talk about some of the problems with the financial media. Number one, and this is what we've said about, television for many years. They lead with headlines that are, and the same thing in the newspaper business. Big headlines to get your attention, sensationalism, and it's important to realize that is a big factor.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Let's look at the reels here, right? If I said, hey guys, today the market went down, or if I said one of the biggest market drops in 10 days, you're going to click on that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And in cable news and stuff like that, the goal is to get more viewers and to keep watching for as long as possible. In the internet world, it's all about getting people to click, right? Whoever can make a cool article or a funny headline page or a picture, they get a click, right?
Yep.
And this often leads to, like I just did in my example, overly dramatic TV that typically has sensationalism headlines and webs that, like I said, typically doesn't reflect a whole lot on reality or what's going on in the world. And I think it's very important to remember that media outlets, they make it seem like there's a lot of information there. It's very informative, but a lot of the times their main goal and their main job is to entertain you, right? That's why it's called the entertainment industry. So I always tell clients I could make any headline sound boring or any headline sound dramatic, depending on how you state it and what picture you use, and all that good stuff. So it's very important that when you're looking at your situation, you really want to get very, very customized with your information and make sure it actually pertains to you. And then if you are clicking on that or you get drawn in, make sure you're actually looking at the facts and finding out what really is going on and not falling into a lot of the, the drama of the sky is falling type thing.
You got to remember that it's all about viewers and listeners and readers and clicks on the internet, for sure.
It's all about that.
Even on Facebook, it's all about likes, that kind of thing. So there's such a thing as paid placement. Sometimes, what you're watching on TV, for example, there's a lot of this in that particular world where it's a paid program. There's a short disclaimer, saying that somebody paid for this content. But, some people don't really keep that in mind, and they may think that is the truth, no matter what, even though somebody paid to have it put there.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, even on like podcast land or any of these other types of media outlets and stuff, you're hearing all this, advertisements for certain commercials or advertisements for certain companies or services. And a lot of times people believe, well, that must be what they're using or that must be a really good thing. Well, a lot of the times money's talking, right? Meaning that people are typically buying for that advertisement or that paid place. So, it's very, very important, again, that when you're looking at stuff to not look at just the name because they got a nice fancy commercial, but actually make sure it's what best for what you're using. And that could relate to financial planning. That can relate to where you get your groceries. That can relate to anything out there, right? So make sure, again, that you're kind of keeping that in mind and not kind of falling into that trap, so to speak.
Well, there's such a thing as, broadcasting, let's say. Again, let's use TV as an example. And the same thing can go for a radio show, I suppose. Mm-hmm. You could be sending a message to the wrong audience. For example, some of the things we talk about here on the show, we're talking about getting to and through retirement, but all of the things that we talk about for that particular audience is not necessarily true for somebody who's 25 or 26 years old.
Yeah, that's a very important part. Like I said, we try to keep this show as broad as we can, talking about a lot of different financials, but really, like you said, Ron, it's more customized and tailored to a lot of those people that are approaching or going into retirement. And like you said, it might be, if you're 20 years old, might be a total different circumstance. I know for instance, for example, we talk a lot about Roth conversions and stuff, and yeah, they might be really good for a lot of younger people, and most of the time for a lot of younger people, but for every 65-year-old out there, it doesn't mean you need a Roth conversion, right? There might be a lot of sense to it. It might really, really make sense in your situation. And I have some clients, let's say if you got $500,000 in 401ks and IRAs, and you're already taking Social Security, and you're trying to get the most amount of income you can possible off that money, it's probably Roth conversion doesn't make much sense, right? So you really got to make sure that the advice that you're getting is intended for you, and again, making sure that it is customized to what you're trying to do, because everybody's situation. Again, I meet with primarily only retired or pre-retired people that are getting ready to get into retirement or just retired. And I'll tell you, even with meeting with that narrow of a demographic, almost all of their situations are a little bit different or have different variables or different goals and things to keep in mind. So it's so important to make sure that you're getting information from the right person.
Absolutely. One more thing I wanted to mention here, and I'm a big music fan, and so sometimes I'll read a review of a concert or an album or something, and basically I hate reviewers, because
sometimes I like them and sometimes it just really bothers me,
Yeah, sometimes a reviewer will really slam somebody, and I get to thinking, well, gosh, he must really have an axe to grind about this particular artist. But I think that's even more true in the financial world. You may see some person on TV raving about how this is good or this is bad, this is, avoid this at all costs. But you sometimes get to think, well, maybe this person has had a really bad experience with this thing and just has a need to get some kind of revenge here.
Yeah, that's another great way to put it. Like I said, a lot of those shows on TV and stuff aren't can have some good information about buying stocks or about doing this or that. But again, I would not consider that customized advice. And a lot of the times, like you said, Ron, I mean, we have no idea what their past experience. They might be a huge shareholder of that company, or they might really not like that company at all, right? Maybe, like you said, they have personal reasons or a bad experience. Maybe they had a bad experience at Apple last night when they were buying something, and now they want to sell all their stock, right? You have no idea what could be coming. And I think it's very interesting. A lot of people will come online and say, hey, it's a good time to sell, buy the dip, do this, right? Well, depending on your situation, it might be a good time, or it might be a good time to stay the course, right? It really just depends on where you're at and where your situation is. And I think one thing we have found with a lot of the people we meet with is it's very, very important that you're getting customized and tailored advice, especially those of you that are getting closer to retirement or maybe into retirement, because a lot of the times we don't have a lot of time to make those costly mistakes or to do the wrong thing or maybe take advice that wasn't really intended for our situation. So, I think it's very important when you're doing things, whether it's buying or selling a stock, looking at a Roth conversion or any type of tax or investment planning, you want to make sure you're meeting with someone that's a qualified professional and again, that specializes in your situation. Okay. So if you're going into retirement and you're meeting with an advisor that primarily works with 30-year-old clients, probably not the best fit, right? You want to make sure you're getting someone that works with somebody or lots of people in your situation or very similar to your situation to make sure that the advice that they're giving you and the recommendations and all this planning that's going into it is something that they have done before and it's proven and has worked for a long period of time. So if you're one of those clients that's out there listening to the show right now, one of these great radio listeners, go ahead and give us a call. Ron will give you the number here in a sec. And how it works, actually offer a free no obligation consultation where you can come in for that discovery meeting. And really what that discovery meeting is allowed for is it's your floor, right? Meaning you get the floor. We'll ask you a lot of questions about who you are, what you're trying to do. You're going to ask me a lot of questions about who we are and what situations we could probably bring to the table. But overall, it's a great conversation. It's a really good time for those of you that maybe have had a financial plan or got it done a while ago or haven't started yet. Maybe it's a good time to kind of get on track and get these puzzle pieces put together before we head into retirement. So if you're interested, again, give us a call. We'd love to sit down, spend an hour with you on Zoom or at one of our offices.
It is like putting together a puzzle, and Logan Sadler has all the pieces to talk about and make sure everything is customized to your particular situation. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you'd like a discovery meeting. 888-823-PLAN. Wherever you are in Southern California today, we appreciate your listening. Remember that Logan has 2 convenient offices, Hemet and Redlands at Brigary Financial, and actually worked with all 3 generations of some of the client families. Many of the clients have been with this particular firm for more than a quarter of a century, and it's all individual. Can't say that enough. Everybody's situation is different. You're unique. I'm unique. And there is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to retirement planning. 888-823-PLAN. If you'd like to get specific about your particular scenario, Logan Sadler can help. 888-823-PLAN. You're listening to the Financial Beat. Ron Stutz here along with Logan Sadler, and we'll be right back.
It's getting to know you time.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Brigary Financial. And Logan, in the interest of having our listeners get to know you a little bit better, what is your favorite season?
Man, that's a great question. It's funny because you're going to love this answer. During summer, my favorite season is winter, and during winter, my favorite season is summer, right? We always want what we can't have, but no, joking, probably summer. I enjoy the long days where it stays light very late. That way we can go golf in the afternoon or go to the park with the family or just do more activities, mow my grass later in the day, all those other things. So I would say the summer, not a huge fan of the heat, but I would say I think I like a lot of the benefits more that come with summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, interesting what you said about during summer. My favorite one is winter, and during winter, it's my favorite one is summer, etc.
Yep.
But, thanks for breaking it all down for us.
That's what we're here to do.
Now we know you a little bit better.
Awesome.
Logan Sadler at the Brigary Financial, and this show is the Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz. We'll have more coming up.
Do you ever find yourself skipping through countless songs trying to find the perfect one? Yeah, we've been there too, and know it can be frustrating. Much like skipping through the countless advertisements from other financial advisors, it can seem like there's so much misinformation. But here on the Financial Beat, you can rest assured we're providing you with the best information possible. So don't push skip on this show, because we have some important information coming up.
And the beat goes on. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler at Rigari Financial. And Logan's number, if you'd like to give him a call and get a discovery meeting arranged, 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-7526. But the easy way to remember it is by using the word PLAN, because that is so essential. 888-823-PLAN. Logan, of course, the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Rigari Financial. Wherever you are today in Southern California, thank you for spending a little time with us today. Logan not only has this radio show that we've been doing now for quite some time, but also there are other ways to get good information from Logan Sadler, and that would include your YouTube channel. Logan, tell folks about that.
Yeah, for those of you who've been listening to the show, but also check out a lot of information over on YouTube. That's why we created the YouTube channel called The Financial Beat, just like the show name. And you can head over to YouTube, type in The Financial Beat, and you'll see our channel there where we actually upload content there weekly. A lot of it is slowed down and more specific on certain topics that are all pertaining to different retirement planning and investment solutions. That is, again, just great information for you to go check out. They're 3 to 10 minute videos on a lot of different information out there in retirement planning and different educational sources like that, as well as we upload there weekly, so you'll see a lot of new content weekly.
And not only that, but if you miss the show at its regular time on the weekend, you can go and listen to it anytime at all, because there are podcasts available.
Yeah, as well as the podcast platform, you can head over to maybe Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you download podcasts. And again, type in The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. And we have over 70 episodes now recorded on the podcast that you can go check out. And like Ron said, listen to them wherever you're at or whenever you want, and check out each episode. And again, they're uploaded on there weekly as well.
Over 70 episodes. It's hard to believe we've been doing this show for so long. That's amazing.
It is. We're rounding the corner to 100.
Time flies when you are having fun.
That's what they say.
Hey, crime of the week here. We always do these crime segments because it would be impossible to count all the federal crimes in the books, and trust us, people have tried, because we're always looking out for you, the listener. We try to make you aware of one particular federal crime every week to reduce the chances of you ending up in some kind of a sticky situation. Logan, did you realize that it's a federal crime to shoot a rocket while you're in a cave in a national forest?
No, I did not know that. I haven't had a rocket while I was in a cave, but now I know that I can't do that.
I suppose at one time somebody did that, and so they had to write a law to make it against the law in order to keep people from doing it again.
That's the best part about those, is like you said, somebody had to have done it or tried to do it.
And people do some really dumb things, like famous last words. Hey, watch this.
Yeah, exactly. Check this out.
I'm gonna shoot off a rocket inside this cave.
Exactly.
Just
probably
really,
not the best idea.
No, I don't think so. Hell, well, let's talk about things that matter and things that don't matter. Some people spend a lot of time worrying about some of the items on this particular list that I put together here and fretting about the financial implications on them personally. So you tell us, Logan, how much do these things really matter to the average individual from a financial perspective? First of all, the outcome of the midterm election, which isn't that far away.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, I think a lot of people out there have a lot of their eyes on this, just because we've just had a lot going on. I mean, when you look over the last few years, but I always like to back that up. When have we not had a lot going on, right?
That's right.
It feels like forever. There's just been always something going on, some type of, whether it's COVID or whether it's 2008 recession, or there's just always something going on. And then in the middle of all this stuff, there's typically an election or a midterm coming up that, again, some added chaos or some volatility in there. So I wanted to lead with that first. So the midterm election does have some sway as far as financials go. Of course, depending on which way you like to vote or depending on which way it goes, there's some different outcomes. But I always tell people a lot of the time we put a little bit too much pressure on these elections. Like I remember back in 2020 when they had that one with the Biden and Trump one, I remember hearing clients say all the time, just because it was a very volatile market before the election,
Yeah.
a lot of people thought, man, the market's really going to tank whether it goes one way or the other. And you know what? It was interesting. We actually went on a very good rally for like 6 months after that election, right? So I always tell people it's very hard. Yes, we could look at a lot of analysis and some data to see what could happen, but we don't actually know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone in a few weeks or a few months when the elections take place, right? So it's very important to, yes, obviously stay educated, vote the way you want to vote, and vote the way you think will impact you and your family, in a good way. But also don't put too much weight on it financially to where you're making sells or buys just because there's an election coming up.
I just want to say one more thing, and no matter how you vote.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Really disappoints me when people don't go to the polls. They say, it doesn't matter. My vote doesn't matter. That's not true.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. Go out there. What's that old saying, right? You can't complain if you didn't vote, right? So
Exactly.
you got to get out there and vote.
Here's another complicated scenario, the whole health insurance marketplace. How much does it matter to each individual out there listening to the show today about what's happening in the health insurance marketplace?
Yeah, you know what? That's actually something that affects pretty much everybody, right? I mean, when you look at either for seniors, you got long-term care facilities that fall into that category. If you're younger or still working, you got health insurance, which is crazy. With the cost of health insurance over the last decade, it has just been amazing how fast the increases have went up and how darn expensive it is, right? I have so many clients that a lot of the times one of their biggest factors of staying till 65 is because Medicare, right? They typically either they can afford it or they don't want to pay out of pocket for the health care because they can be some very extremely highly cost. So definitely something I'd keep an eye on. Definitely something I think that affects a lot of people. Again, I wouldn't lose sleep over it type of thing, but that is a huge impact on your everyday life, whether you're younger and having kids or whether you're older or getting ready to retire. It does have some definite impact on your financial dollar, right? How much money do I have left after taxes and healthcare type thing?
You and I could probably have a conversation here for an hour about the war between Ukraine and Russia, but no matter how you feel about all of that's going on over there, how much does it matter to us as individuals, financially speaking? Yeah,
of course, like you said, there's also the emotional side of things where doesn't really matter where it's at. Nobody likes to see a war going on. We all know how violent those can be, right? So, I mean, let's look at like you said, just the financial aspect of this. I think it definitely has had some impact. I mean, you look at the start of this year, they were saying one of the slowest starts in 50 years, right? So, definitely is. I think the Ukraine-Russia thing going on has had some impact for sure on what the markets are doing. Again, there's a lot of other stuff going on here in the U.S. that is contributing to those things as well, as far as the slower market and. Definitely a lot of variables to still unfold, right? We still don't know where this is going to go between them or other countries, and so there still is a lot to watch. Again, I always tell people if you're making changes to your investments based off the news, you're probably not invested properly for your risk tolerance and what your goals are. So keep that in mind. Of course, keep an eye on it. Definitely want to make sure you're seeing what's going on out there in the world. But, when you look at wars, sometimes wars make the economy boom. Right after World War II, we had a pretty good booming market. Sometimes they cause us to go into a recession, depression, or whatever slower economical name you want to put on that. But, there's just a lot to look at there as far as that goes. But from a financial aspect, I definitely wouldn't make any, I wouldn't sell my house or I wouldn't sell a stock based off just that at this point.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you'd like a discovery meeting with Logan and get to know him. He gets to know you. You can get a lot of good information there, and you will benefit greatly from it. And it's not going to cost you anything and not going to obligate you to do anything at all. 888-823-PLAN. We're talking about things that matter and things that maybe don't matter to us as individuals. A lot of people right now are worried about Social Security, and we talk about it a lot on this show. A lot of people say, hey, I'm going to start taking my Social Security as soon as I turn 62 because it ain't going to be there very much longer. I want to make sure I get my money. Well, how about the dwindling Social Security Trust Fund? How much does that matter to us as individuals?
Yeah, it's funny, Ron, your comment there sounded like the last client I just met with, right?
I don't know.
No, we've been hearing that a lot, and like you said, we've been talking about it a lot on the show just because I think it's important to talk about, but, there definitely is, I'd be lying if I would say there's not some concern out there, right? There's always some concern with everything.
Sure.
And definitely something to look at, and there's definitely got to be some restructuring or something done, whether that's increasing Social Security taxes that we pay or whether it's lowering the amount for younger age groups. But I always tell people, if you're taking Social Security just to take it before it runs out, probably not the most efficient way to make investment decisions. A lot of us that are getting closer and getting ready to start taking Social Security, I don't think it will have a huge impact on you guys. I think a lot of the younger generations or people further down the road, it will definitely be maybe delayed where you got to work longer, or maybe to where the benefits reduced, or whatever ends up coming of that, we'll have to see. But
you don't think it's going away?
No, I don't. I don't think all of a sudden tomorrow you're going to wake up and the checks stop coming, right, if you're 75 years old. But like you said, I think it's just important to understand what's going on. But definitely I wouldn't lose too much sleep over that at this point, especially if you're getting close to retirement or just retiring. Mm-hmm. When you take Social Security, you want it to be because it was the optimal time for you and your spouse to take Social Security because it made the most financial and tax sense, not just because you read an article in the news, right? So that's my opinion on that.
A lot of strategy involved too, and exactly when to start your Social Security. And if you get in touch with the Social Security office, they're not going to tell you when the best time to take it is. They're just going to give you the numbers, but that's why you need to have a conversation with someone like Logan Sadler who can help you analyze that whole situation. And it can make a difference of thousands and thousands of dollars for sure. Also, the stock market returns in the next 12 months. There are people who lie awake at night worried about this stuff and drive themselves crazy, but how much does that really matter to someone planning for retirement?
Yeah, what's funny, Ron, is I'm a big believer. Those of you guys that have been listening to the show for a while probably have got this, but those of you that are newer, it's a great time to hear my input on this. I think a lot of the times if you're investing in the stock market and you're having to base your return off what it does this year, you probably should not be put in the stock market at this time, right? I mean, just because when you look at the stock market, it is a longer investment, it's a longer term investment. It's not a short term. A lot of the last few years returns have been very attractive for people. So they say, hey, I could put money in there and next year I could make 10% of that money or 20% of that money or whatever number you think is out there. The reality is the market goes up and the market comes down, right? It's something where it is not a guaranteed place to put money. And when you're putting money in the market, you always want to look at it in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year increments, 10-year increments, right? And making sure you're investing properly based off your risk tolerance, not just to try to throw some money in the wind and hopefully it does good next year so I could retire type thing, right? Yeah.
And the stock market is cyclical as well, just like you said, sometimes up, sometimes down.
You're so right. It's funny. I actually had a YouTube video I did maybe that was, or it was a while ago, maybe 6, 7, 8 months ago. And I was actually researching how often the stock market has dropped more than 10%. And in the last, what was it? I think it was in the last 8 years, the stock market has dropped more than 10% 12 times. Right? I mean, that's pretty big dips, right? Yeah. Most people are like, well, are you sure? Wasn't it just that COVID dip? No, there's been a bunch of them. So that's not even including, the 2008s, the early 2001s where we had a big dip, and then the Great Depressions and all that stuff before that. But, you got to look, when you're putting money in the market, you got to know it's going up or down. So when you're putting money and you're having an investment plan, like a retirement plan, you got to make sure you have different assets out there. That's why we always talk about diversification. That's why there's things like bonds, there's things like treasuries, annuities could be a good alternative, cash, CDs, right? There's a lot of different structured notes, real estate, a lot of different asset classes you can kind of mix into your portfolio to make sure it's efficient, because you don't want to be betting on, hopefully the market booms this next 12 months, right? Because we have no idea. And we do know that sometimes when the market goes down, Ron, like you said, it does go up and down. Sometimes when it goes down, it might stay down for 6 months, 3 months, a year, maybe 2 years plus, right? We've seen all sorts of different things happen. So it's important when you're investing in the market that you understand the risk you're taking and making sure you have the right time horizon to fit that risk that you're taking with that investment.
And it's important to consider the long long run, and a song by the Eagles comes to mind.
The long run, exactly. No, it's so true. Like I always tell people, even investment planning for retirement, it's still people. Well, I'm retiring tomorrow. Well, it doesn't mean you're taking all your money out in 1 year, right? You're still going to have probably a 20 or 30 year run with that money. So it's important. Yeah, exactly. So it's important to know that, hey, we're still investing for the long run, but now we might have to shift our assets maybe from growing to now maybe kicking off some income that we're going to need. And I think that's a lot of what we spend a lot of time with our clients is a lot of it centered around education and making sure we understand what risk we're taking, what our portfolio is built to do, what it could do during a good market or a down market. I think that's very important. A lot of people out there, meaning advisors, only like to tell you maybe how good this will do during a booming market. But it's important, we feel, to understand what happens if we didn't have a good market. What happens if we had a bad one or an okay one or an in-between one, right? So I think that's a lot of what we provide is the education and the analysis to really support those documents and those recommendations, not this year, but throughout your retirement. So again, if you're out there and you've got a retirement plan or don't have a retirement plan and you're looking for a review or maybe to get a retirement plan started and you're approaching retirement, or maybe you just started retirement and are looking for a way to maybe increase that current retirement, give us a call. I'd love to spend an hour with you. You give us a call at the number Ron is going to give you here in a second, and somebody from our office reaches out to you first thing Monday morning and sets a time for you to sit down with me at one of our offices in Redlands or Hemet, or on Zoom or a phone call, and we can kind of take a deep dive into your situation and see if we can't bring some value to your retirement.
888-823-PLAN, very important phone number, 888-823-PLAN. You can call that number, set up a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler, same guy you hear on the show, and get a good assessment of where you are and talk about what you want to achieve in your retirement, what kind of lifestyle you want, and how you can get there. There are different strategies to consider, and Logan Sadler can provide you with all the options and help you get on track. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you'd like to have a conversation that's not going to cost you anything and not going to obligate you to do anything at all beyond that. 888-823-PLAN is that very important number. Regari Financial. Logan Sadler is on the radio, and there's more on the way.
At the end of the day, no one truly understands your financial wants and desires better than you. That's why it's important to have financial independence. This means you can work when you want, you know exactly where your income is coming from, and most importantly, your finances are stable. If this sounds like something you want, well, text the word advice to the number 21000. And Logan Sadler and his team at Regari Financial can provide you with their free guide on achieving financial independence. The free guide will show you how to create an action plan for getting to where you want to be. It'll explain how to calculate a financial independence goal. And it'll define what an ICE egg is and why it's so important. Download it now by texting the word advice to the number 21000. Again, text the word advice to the number 21000 to gain your financial independence today.
What is your name?
I'm Arthur, King of the Britons.
What is your quest?
To get retirement ready.
What is the PE ratio on your portfolio's top grossing products?
I don't know that.
Don't get blown to bits by complex jargon. Let Logan help you over the bridge to a meaningful retirement.
We're back now with more of the Financial Beat. You could say the beat goes on. Logan Sadler is Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial, serving you in Southern California. Two separate offices, Hemet and Redlands. And, of course, Logan would be glad to meet with you at either of those locations, or you can have a Zoom connection if you like, whatever you prefer. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to kind of get to know Logan and have a good assessment of where you are in your financial planning. And if you don't have a plan, it is certainly never too soon to start one. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call right now. This show, of course, about getting to and through retirement. Let's go to the mailbag here. Logan, we have a question from Dale in Yucaipa. And Dale says, I can't say I'm an expert on the stock market. In fact, I wouldn't consider myself a very sophisticated investor at all. But here I sit with about $900,000 saved for retirement between my IRAs, Roth, and 401k. And I'm not really sure how I got here. My approach so far has obviously done well. Is it safe to assume that I can just keep doing what I'm doing as I head off into retirement?
Yeah, great question, Dale. And, it is very interesting that happens, right? I mean, I've seen it time and time again and people ask me all the time, what's the best way to save for retirement? And like you did, Dale, it sounds like you did slow and steady and kept really just putting money away when you could. And like you said, you're almost a millionaire there, right? So congratulations first off. And like you said, I mean, one of the things I always tell people, and it's very important to understand this, is that a lot of the times when you're getting ready for retirement, I always tell people what got you to retirement won't get you through retirement, right? So because now instead of trying to grow those assets up each year or each month or however long you're looking at your statements, now you're at the point where you're trying to draw income from those, right? So now when the markets go down, you want to make sure that your income can still come in each month. So it's important to kind of make sure you're shifting gears there from what we call the accumulation phase, where I'm trying to put money away, I'm trying to grow it, to now it's called the distribution phase, meaning, hey, I want a paycheck from this every month, right? I want to be able to enjoy my life's work here and sail off into the sunset. So definitely give us a call. That is our specialty, where we deal with a lot of clients on the decumulation phase, where they're getting money out of their portfolio or getting ready to. So, but first off, Dale, congratulations. Sounds like you've done very well in putting yourself in a good spot. And it sounds like you probably are going to have a pretty good retirement.
All right, Dale, thank you very much for the question. Again, follow up, and you can arrange a conversation with Logan one-on-one. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make that happen. One more question today, and it's from Peggy, and Peggy is in Menifee. And Peggy says, the good news is that we have a brand new granddaughter. The bad news is that she's going to be in the hospital for at least the next couple of months and maybe longer. I can't imagine the idea of her not having somebody right there by her side that whole time. But my daughter and son-in-law's financial situation does not allow them to be off work that long. I was planning to retire in about a year and a half anyway, so I'm considering retiring now so that I can be there. The other option is that I could just give them money to help them cover their bills while they take some time off work. Which do you think would be a better approach?
Yeah, well, Peggy, first off, congratulations on the granddaughter, and sorry to hear about the extended stay there in the hospital, but hopefully things are getting better. And what I would say is, like you said, it's very important to kind of think logically during these times. And I would want to ask you a few more questions personally about, I know you were planning on working 18 more months. How much would that affect your retirement, right? Maybe you have a pension that would be less, or your 401k contributions. How much more would that maybe reduce your income in retirement? And we can kind of run those numbers and see, based off what age you are, how much that would really affect things, because maybe it might make sense to pull the plug early. The other aspect, like you said, is I would want to run those numbers. The other one is I would look at, it might be a good option to maybe, if you are in a position where you can help fund maybe 2 months or 3 months of your child's expenses and things of that sort, so they could take off work. Also, how would that affect their jobs? And, there's a lot that would go into this question that I want to unpack to find that right formula. But it sounds like you're on the right track there about trying to help out in some way. But definitely we want to make sure it makes sense for both of you guys to be the most efficient way to be there for your granddaughter.
Logan, I know it's really sad when you hear this situation about, on the one hand, they're really elated because they have a brand new grandchild, but on the other, there's some medical issues, and it is wonderful that Peggy's trying to help out in whatever way. And Peggy, I would just say call Logan's office and arrange to have a conversation with him. Make sure you make the right decision, because it's a crucial decision to make. Logan, I know that there are other people out there with questions and would love to have a conversation with you. And as we always say, everybody's situation is different. Everyone is unique. What kind of things are you going to talk about the very first time you get together with someone?
Yeah, at our discovery meeting, I'd love to take a deep dive into what it is that you're trying to accomplish and what it is that made you make the phone call or schedule the appointment. Because a lot of the times it might be you're gearing up for retirement, or you're trying to get a financial plan. Maybe you've done a good job of maybe getting assets together, and now it's time to kind of organize those for retirement or for income coming up here in your future retirement. So we spend a lot of times talking about that, and we spend a deep dive talking into what your what your relationship has been like with money, what your investing philosophy is, or if you don't have one, to kind of unpack that and find out what your risk tolerance is. What type of returns are you hoping to accomplish? What type of income do we need to generate when it's time to take income? So, we spend a lot of times talking about those things as far as more, not just money related stuff, but a lot more about what your goals and dreams are for retirement. And then we spend a lot of times talking about our 5 pillars of retirement planning, which is income planning, tax planning, healthcare planning, legacy planning. We're going to unpack a lot of that, as well as investment planning. And we really kind of go over how we feel it's really, really crucial of how to build a retirement plan that's going to last the next 20 to 30 years into your retirement. So that's exactly what we cover there at the Discovery meeting. Again, doesn't cost anything. There's not any fancy sales pitch. Really just a good time for us to get to know each other and see if we can't bring some value and maybe make a positive impact into your retirement by maybe making a couple of small changes.
If you want a conversation with Logan Sadler, here's your number, 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. Remember that Logan is the Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial. And when you make that call and arrange to have that discovery meeting, you're going to be having the conversation with Logan, the same guy you hear on the radio show. He's not going to pass you off on somebody else. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make that happen. Remember, no cost and no obligation. Ron Stutz here along with Logan Sadler. And Logan, it's been a lot of fun being with you today.
Hey, as I say all the time, one of my favorite times of my week is when I get to stop by here and share some information and chat with Ron and some of you good listeners out there. And I look forward to being back here next week with another great show.
Absolutely. Join us again next time for the next edition of the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler.
The information provided is for educational purposes only and is not intended as investment advice for anyone. All information discussed is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. The views presented today are those of BD Financial Group and do not necessarily represent the views of AlphaStar Capital Management, LLC. The opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not constitute financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult with your financial professional before executing any financial strategy. Investment advisory and financial planning services are offered through AlphaStar Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. AlphaStar and BD Financial Group are independent entities. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by the Commission, nor does it indicate that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability.